from Paralympic hero to convicted murderer. The story of Oscar Pistorius is one of a celebrated athlete whose fall from grace captivated and horrified the world. Once known as the Blade Runner, Pistorius became a global icon, the first double amputee to compete in the Olympic Games. He was a symbol of perseverance and triumph over adversity. But everything changed in the early hours of Valentine's Day 2013. It was around 3 a.m. at Pistorius's home in a secure estate in Pretoria, South Africa. 4 gunshots rang out, fired through a locked toilet door. Inside was his girlfriend, 29-year-old model and law graduate Reeva Steenkamp. She was fatally wounded. What happened in that bathroom became the central question of one of South Africa's most sensational and scrutinized legal battles. Pistorius was arrested and charged with murder. His defense was immediate and unwavering. He claimed he believed an intruder had broken into his home and was hiding in the bathroom. He said he fired his 9mm pistol in a state of terror, thinking he was protecting both himself and Reeva, who he believed was still in bed. It was, he argued, a tragic mistake. The prosecution, however, painted a very different picture. They argued that the couple had been fighting, leading Pistorius to intentionally shoot and kill Steenkamp in a fit of rage. They pointed to neighbors who reported hearing arguments and screams that night. The stage was set for a trial that would dominate headlines globally, examining not just the events of that night, but the character of Oscar Pistorius himself. Was he a vulnerable man with a heightened sense of fear due to his disability, or a controlling partner with a history of anger and a fondness for firearms? The trial began in March 2014, broadcast live and followed by millions. The state, led by prosecutor Jerry Nell, known for his aggressive cross-examination style, meticulously built its case. They presented text messages between Pistorius and Steenkamp that suggested a tumultuous relationship. In one message, Reeva wrote, "I'm scared of you sometimes and how you snap at me." Witnesses, including neighbors, testified to hearing a woman's terrified screams before the gunshots, challenging Pistorius's timeline and his claim that he only screamed for help after realizing his mistake. The prosecution's forensic evidence was crucial. Ballistics experts detailed the trajectory of the bullets, while a pathologist described the devastating injuries Steenkamp sustained. The court learned that Pistorius used powerful black talon bullets designed to expand on impact, causing maximum damage. This detail was used to question Pistorius's claim of firing without intent to kill. Why use such deadly ammunition if you weren't sure of your target? The defense, led by advocate Barry Rue, fought back hard. They called their own forensic experts to dispute the state's findings, arguing about everything from the sequence of sounds heard by neighbors to the timing of the stomach contents, which could indicate when Steenkamp last ate and potentially contradict the state's timeline of a late-night argument. A pivotal moment in the trial came when Pistorius himself took the stand. Over several days, he gave emotional, often tearful testimony. He described his lifelong fear of crime, a fear he said was amplified by his disability and the feeling of being defenseless without his prosthetic legs. He reenacted the night, describing his panic upon hearing the bathroom window slide open. He broke down repeatedly, wailing as he recounted the moment he broke down the toilet door with a cricket bat and discovered Reeva's body. However, under Jerry Nell's intense cross-examination, Pistorius appeared evasive and contradictory. Nell relentlessly picked apart his testimony, accusing him of tailoring his story and acting for the court. He grilled Pistorius on his past incidents involving guns and aggression, including a time he accidentally fired a gun in a restaurant and another instance of road rage. This painted a portrait of a man who was not just a fearful victim, but also volatile and reckless. The prosecution's goal was to show a pattern of behavior that made a deliberate act of violence seem plausible. The world watched as the court debated complex legal doctrines. In South Africa, there are 2 potential murder verdicts: dolus directus, which is direct intent to kill, and dolus eventualis, where a person foresees the possibility that their actions could kill someone but proceeds anyway. The defense argued that, at worst, Pistorius was guilty of culpable homicide, a lesser charge equivalent to manslaughter, where a person unlawfully and negligently causes another's death. In September 2014, Judge Thokozile Masipa delivered her verdict. She acquitted Pistorius of murder, stating that the prosecution had not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that he intended to kill Steenkamp. She accepted that Pistorius genuinely believed there was an intruder. However, she found that his actions were negligent and unreasonable. A reasonable person, she argued, would have fired a warning shot or called for help, not fired 4 times into a small cubicle without knowing who was inside. She found him guilty of the lesser charge of culpable homicide. The verdict sparked outrage. Many felt that justice had not been served for Reeva Steenkamp. The state prosecutor's office agreed and decided to appeal the verdict, arguing that Judge Masipa had incorrectly applied the law of dolus eventualis. Their argument was simple. When Pistorius fired 4 shots through that door, he must have known that he would kill whoever was behind it, regardless of their identity. That, they contended, was murder. In December 2015, the Supreme Court of Appeal agreed with the prosecution. They overturned the culpable homicide conviction and found Oscar Pistorius guilty of murder under the principle of dolus eventualis. The case was sent back to Judge Masipa for resentencing. In July 2016, she sentenced him to 6 years in prison for murder, a sentence far below the prescribed minimum of 15 years for murder in South Africa. Once again, there was a public outcry. The state appealed again, this time arguing the 6-year sentence was shockingly lenient. In November 2017, the Supreme Court of Appeal sided with the prosecution yet again. They stated that there were no substantial and compelling reasons to deviate from the 15-year minimum sentence. They increased his prison term to 13 years and 5 months, taking into account the time he had already served. Pistorius's time in prison was spent largely out of the public eye. He finally became eligible for parole after serving half of his total sentence. In November 2023, a parole board granted his release. On January 5, 2024, after nearly 9 years behind bars, Oscar Pistorius walked out of prison. But he is not a completely free man. He is subject to strict parole conditions until his sentence officially ends in 2029. He must attend programs for anger management and gender-based violence, is confined to a specific district, must perform community service, and is prohibited from consuming alcohol or speaking to the media. The case of Oscar Pistorius is a tragedy with many layers. It's the story of a young woman's life cut short, of a hero's catastrophic fall, and of a legal system tested under the full glare of the international spotlight. It forced difficult conversations in South Africa and beyond about domestic violence, celebrity justice, and the complexities of intent and fear. While the legal chapters may be closing, the heartbreaking story of what happened on that Valentine's Day will never be forgotten. Thank you for watching this deep dive into the Oscar Pistorius case. Let me know in the comments which South African true crime stories you'd like to see next, and don't forget to subscribe for more.